just allow me, just give me about 10 minutes to explain something about the taking the 8 precepts and going for the refuge. Okay. Well, because we have a different, I would say, different religious background persons here. And someone can be Christian originally, or Catholic, or maybe Judaism, or maybe some like Hindu, and maybe an atheist, do not believe in anything. And maybe even a Buddhist, but not necessarily understand very well. So, and or some people are neither this and neither that, nor this or neither this and nor that, and so forth, right? But however, when we are really, when you come to really serious about your practice, we are actually, even I know some people trying to think that might be that it's just because of religious way, trying to, you could say, convert people, just to be a Buddhist in the name or so-called a Buddhist. Okay. But if we really understand, even if you look at really the history in the movement that the Buddha had in the past, like 2,600 years ago, did the Buddha really interested convert people to be a Buddhist? But seemingly it's very clear, he was not really interested about that. But certainly you could argue that the Buddha did, interest to ask people kind of like become a monastic members when the person are really serious in their practices. As the monastic members, as a male member, as a female monastic members. However, now let me just give something therefore to reflect. Because accordingly, someone if their practice come to really, really good, the mind itself will tend to tend to give the faith to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha. And also, this is what we have a word mean, there were 4 things that definitely will be embedded in your heart, that before you become, or right after you become, or before, or right before, right after, no, about to become, or even right after become the first level of ascent. That means that you definitely have to truly faith to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and then the virtue, what we call the Sila, the 4th thing. That means you definitely value very much the importance of the morality or the virtue, okay, the 4th thing. Now let me explain. So there might be a lot of confusion for people. Then what do you mean by that I could take the refuge to the Buddha? Now, for example, like nowadays, if you go to India, and you definitely see the statue of the Buddha. But normally Indian people tell you the statue of the Buddha is a reincarnation of the god Vishnu. This is how nowadays the Indian people think what the Buddha is. It's one of the reincarnation body of the god called Vishnu. But definitely that certainly is not the Buddhist way of understanding. Okay? But also some people understand as when we say take the refuge to the Buddha, and the Buddha refer to, hey, look, when you see the statue in the Buddha. It is interesting that, like I remember, like last year or before last year, I think last year, or actually maybe early this year, Yeah, early this year. I was in Taiwan, and I went to the museum in Taiwan. You know, one of the best, if you want to see the Chinese, is like I'm doing advertisement now. If you want to see it, really good Chinese, what they call is artifacts and so forth, you know. Certainly Taiwan is the best place to go. Yeah. And then of course, without doubt, in the museum you definitely see a lot of statue. The Bodhisattva statue, because of China, you know, in the past, were highly influenced by Buddhism, and then the Buddha statue and so forth. And of course, I'm a monk. I have a little artwork in a certain way. You know why? Because some people, especially the old lady, they were so devoted. Every statue they see, they do this way. Every statue, like every statue to him, it's like the object of worshiping. And as a monk, I just do it like that. And then suddenly I feel uneasy also. Should I do this way to show I'm a monk? Or should I just, this is not respect, you know? And I'm just kind of like looking at the statue as if like, anyway, something beautiful, you know? And I try to see what kind of, when this statue was made and such. And you can see actually we have different way of projecting what the statue means to a person. Okay? So, in other words, I want to say that when someone say that they will take a refuge to the Buddha, the way they understand the Buddha, it could be simply a statue, you know. That's why the statue almost to that person as a life that give them the meaning. And that then if you ask me, that's very clear. When I was in the museum, a statue is just a statue. It's just someone trying to, you know what I'm saying, trying to sculpt the statue for people to remember there was a Buddha, and different period of time have a different way of making of it, right? Now, am I wrong? Maybe you could say I'm wrong. Was it wrong or was it right? Okay. Now, we need to go back to one of the teaching first, of course. Now, but so one time there was one of the very famous, because everyone knows that in the culture, the Buddha was, even though he was born in Nepal, but you know, basically the places he was kind of like, you know, having his mission is in India. Nowadays you call it India. And everyone know that, if everyone understand the Indian culture, especially in 2,600 years ago, so that they have a different way of understanding. When I say different way, they have a different way, mean different way from American way of understanding as a religious, what a religion is about. Anyway, the one person called the Dona is a very famous story. As a Brahmin, the Dona as a Brahmin, he actually encountered the Buddha, or he was told that the Buddha was one of the really powerful, you could say nowadays called spiritual guy, a spiritual person. And he observed the Buddha really, truly. Firstly, why he went there, because he saw, that's how the myth, you could say the myth, but at least that's how the Buddhism think, that the Buddha, he had this kind of like a chakra, the kind of wheel on his feet. So he could see that kind of, what do you call that, the print, you know, on the ground. So that's why he was convinced, at least by that observation, that he would be someone really, not just a human. That's why he encountered the Buddha. Now let me cut the story short. He asked the Buddha, who are you? So, he would say like that, Deva no bhavang, bhavisati iti. Then he asked basically are you a deity or divine? or you could say a deity, or the God, how do you translate? And then the Buddha replied him, say, no ko aham Brahman. Okay, no, I'm not that. So then he asked, Gandapona no bhavan bhavisati, or devona, basically Gandapo no bhavan bhavisati, or yakko and the manuso. He was asking Phil, that's how it's starting to do with the Indian background. Basically, he say, are you the deity? Then Buddha say, I'm not a deity. Are you this Gandhapa? Basically, you could say celestial kind of musician. Are you the celestial musician? And the Buddha say, I'm not a celestial musician. Or understanding celestial musician means something like maybe in English you could translate like angels, something like the angels that could play the music, have quite a divine kind of body. And then, are you the Yakko? Yakko is some kind of like, in Indian culture, believe in a certain area, they have a certain kind of god who protect the land or the house, Are you the Yakko? So then the Buddha say, I'm not a Yakko. So then are you the human? Then the Buddha say, I'm not a human. Then he say, Attako charahi bhavan bhavisaditi. Then, what then could you be, sir? So this is the donor ask. And then, I don't think I want to read, I'll read a little bit. So, and then he answered, he said, Ye sanko ahang brahmana asavanang abahinata devo bhavayang deme asawa bahina uchina mula talavattukata anabhavitkata ayating ang upada dhamma. Okay. Well, then the Buddha replied. Then he said, who are you? Right? The donor asked. A Brahmin is a Brahmin asked. Then who are you? He said, Brahmin, I have abandoned those tents as I might be a deva. I have cut them off the root like the palm stumps, eradicate them so they are no longer subject to future arising. So then he replied again. He said, Brahman, I have abandoned those tents so I might be basically a Yakko, or might be a Gandhapa, or I might be a Manusa. So the Buddha is not going to answer that whether he is a god, he is a Yakko, he is a Gandhapa, or he's a human, but he wants to try to stress, if I'm that, if I'm a god, if I'm the Gandhapa, if I'm the Yakko, if I'm the human, then I'm the one that had abandoned those tents that as I might be, whatever, then he had cut them off completely. Okay. This is what he wants to stress. That means, then lately, one of the very famous verses come. Then he said, say yatapi, say just like Brahmin, when a lotus, there are three kinds of lotus. One is called Upanam, one is called Patuma, one is called Pundarika. Like, everyone understand, there are three kinds of lotus. So these three kinds of lotus, even though they were born in the water, they were grow up in the water, but they rise above, the water stands untended or unsoiled by the water. The lotus even, in other words, mean the lotus, even though they were born there in a muddy place, under the water, but the lotus would stand up, completely unstandard, as a beautiful lotus. So now, so this is, in other words, mean when we take the refuge to the Buddha, so this is actually very clear, one of the message. I'm going to explain the other later, okay? What the Buddha, one way at least, asks us how to understand as he who he is to understand when you take the refuge to Buddha, I mean the Buddha is, you are not going to call him either he's a human, or either he was a god, or either he is, like a guardian of the house or the land, or either he's a celestial kind of deities. The important is to understand he is the one who has eradicated all the taints, just like a lotus. Even born in any kind of situation, any kind of form, like the white lotus, blue lotus, or red lotus, still emerge from the dirt on the ground, stand up above the water, untended, unsoiled, you could say. So now, this is actually one of the pictures that Buddha gives us, how we can understand what a Buddha means. Okay? Because time reason, I will go explain the other tomorrow. Okay? In other words, let me say that when I see the statue, I don't mean I'm always been represented the only way, okay? But it's a one way to understand that this is how we think about a Buddha. Some might think that Buddha as the statue nowadays, but some like this way to understand. When he tells the Dona Brahmin, that's what the Buddha is. So a Buddha means someone who complete untended. Okay? But it's regardless what kind of body he is. Okay? Now, you might be a little wondering why I want to say that. I want to say this, this is not just puzzled me for a long time, because when I came to America, even when I was in England, I saw people can be very devoted to Buddhism. However, the way their devotion to the Buddhism is different from the way that I used to be. For example, I worship the Buddha statue whenever I see in a temple. And someone, they come to the temple, they don't worship the Buddha statue. So do you understand it as a culture, or do you understand it as a spiritual, or whatever, right? But the interesting thing is, I might worship the Buddha statue, some other might not worship the Buddha statue. But somebody can be not worshiping the Buddha statue, they can understand the Dhamma, or they can maybe practice in the Dhamma in much more sincere way too. Okay. All right, let me just make a pause here, and shall we just take the 8 precept now, and then,可以啊，还是你先开始啊。Yeah, for the requesting, you could just follow after Venerable Sagaranda.
Okay, so you guys repeat after me. I'll try to slow it down, so you guys, if you guys have never done this before, you can follow. Okasa aham bande.
No, just a moment. Because this is a different version, you need to take the yellow paper. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Aham bande. Tisaranena saha. Atanga samanang gatang. Upasatang silang. Dhammam yachami. Anugahang katwa. Silam de tame bande. Dudiyampi. Aham bande. Tisaranena saha. Atanga samanangatang. Upasatang silam. Dhammam yachami. Anugahang katwa. Silam de tame bande. Tadiyampi. Aham bande. Tisaranena saha. Atanga samanangatang. Upasatang silam. Dhammam yachami. Anugahang katwa. Silam de tame bante.
Namo tassa.
Namo tassa. Bhagavato. Arahato. Samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa. Bhagavato. Arahato. Samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa. Bhagavato. Arahato. Samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Sarana-gamanang paribunnang panatipada Veramani sikkhabadang samadhiyami. Adinadana Veramani sikkhabadang samadhiyami. Abrahmacharya Veramani sikkhabadang samadhiyami. สาวาทาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิสุราเมรยมัจเจปมาตัฏฐานาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิวิกาลโภจนาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามินัจจกิตวาดิเธวิสุขตัสสนามาลกันธาวิเลปนาดารณามันดนาวิบุสสนัตถานาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิอุจจาสยนามหาสยนาเวรมณีสิกขาปดังสมาธิยามิติสรเนนะสหอัตถังกสัมมนากตังอุปสัทธสีลังสาธุขังกัตถวาธัมมังอัปปมาเตนะสัมปาเตเถ
Bante?
Okay, just prostrate 3 times. Be seated. Yeah.